Every story begins with a challenge. Every story starts when there's a problem, when something goes wrong. And in those stories, you have two kinds of people. The first type of person is the hero. The hero is relentless. The hero constantly perseveres. He works to figure things out constantly. He never, ever gives up. He faces big setbacks. He faces small setbacks, but he keeps on going and eventually figures out the problem. If you've ever watched a detective show, detectives are the ultimate heroes, right? No matter how many setbacks they face, they keep on going. No matter how difficult it is, they keep figuring things out until they eventually do figure it out. That's the hero. And great business visionaries like Donald Miller have talked about the hero. A lot of great psychologists, mythologists have talked about this idea of the hero. We also talked about the other way that people respond to the challenge, and that's the victim. The victim starts out like the hero. He faces a challenge, but the difference is the victim falls apart. The victim always needs to be rescued. They always need to be saved. Help me, rescue me, save me. I can't do this. That's the victim. Now, you have victims and heroes in literature. You have heroes and victims in mythology, in movies, in real life. And we all have a hero and a victim inside ourselves, an inner hero and an inner victim. And as parents or as educators, our job is to help a child become an adult that is heroic, that is relentless, is strong, is persevering, never gives up no matter how many setbacks. And if we do that, we've succeeded. And if a child instead becomes an adult that basically constantly gives into that inner victim, we failed. If an adult is always saying, help me, save me, rescue me, I can't do this, then the education, the upbringing has not had the desired result. Now, at Vohra Method, we use something called active learning. That means we give students problems and the students figure out the problems. Now, along the way of solving the big problems, students also face all these little sub-problems, right? Kind of like a detective in a show. So, for example, the big problem might be a very difficult calculus problem. But on the way to solving that problem, maybe it turns out that the student has forgotten how to add fractions. And so he needs to relearn how to add fractions. And that's the small problem on the way to the big problem. And all of this is actually done by the student. The student's always figuring things out. And that's active learning. We call that active learning, but we could just as easily call it heroic learning. Because the idea of that type of learning is we are bringing out the child's inner hero, that inner strength, that perseverance. We're helping the child be led by their inner hero and to avoid giving in to the inner victim. Now, this is very different from what you see in most schools, right? Most schools are all about encouraging the inner victim. And if you look and see the way that schools teach, if the student tries with a problem for just gives some half-baked attempt for 5 seconds, then says, help me, save me, rescue me to the teacher just gives in and tells them what to do. And all of that is building that victim mindset rather than that independent, persevering, heroic mindset. And so at Vohra Method, what we're trying to do is build that heroic mindset. And of course, you can help. How can you help? By reminding students that struggle is good. Remember, Zen monks will often intentionally try to get stuck because they know that being mentally and intellectually stuck is a step towards more intelligence, more enlightenment, etc. Encouraging students to think of initial failures as positive, to see problems and struggles as good things. Because the adults who see problems and struggles as good are always going to be more effective and more successful than those that see problems and challenges as a reason to fall apart and beg for somebody else to help you. So as we go through this thing, this is going to be a very different type of education, but it's also going to be a much better and much stronger education. We're going to be working to help your child realize how to be led by the inner hero and to avoid giving in to that inner victim.